Hi, I'm Mike with Raceway Electric. I want to talk to you guys today about the ultimate homeowners guide for 2025. Just things to look out for when you're either getting into a new home or you've been in your home for a while. And we're going to talk about breakers in your electrical panel, GFI outlets, arc fault protection, smoke detectors, things like that. So one thing we want to talk about today is smoke detectors. So you should test them probably once a year. More importantly, maybe put batteries in them once a year. It might save you for these things going off and chirping at 2 o'clock in the morning and waking you up, and then you got to figure out which one's chirping at you because you have a low battery. And then another thing to think about is if you're changing out the smoke detectors, you could get a 10-year battery in these smoke detectors, so you don't have to worry about the battery every year. Just in case you don't know how to test a smoke detector, it's real simple. You get up here, there's a button on here. You just press and hold the button. All the smoke detectors will go off if they're linked together or just the individual ones, but it will beep and go off and let you know. And then simply changing the batteries. There's a little door on here. You got a couple of batteries in there. Pull the batteries out, put some new batteries in, you're done. Okay, you ever have any outlets in your house, like especially older home, maybe you have the original outlets in your house and you go to plug something in, the plug just falls out, or like you just have it in there and it's just like, it just won't stay in there. So it's just a sign of the outlet's worn out. And it's just from over the years of this outlet being used, just unplugging and plugging stuff in. And it's very common for the outlets that are out in the middle of the room, not the one behind the couch or anything, but just the outlet that's in the middle of the room. Maybe this one gets used a lot for a vacuum or whatever. One of the best things you could do is just change this out. Besides like just upgrading the look of your home. I mean, just simply by changing the outlet out, it's really just updating the look on your house. What's even more important on that is that sometimes when the builders are building these houses, they just plug the wires in the back of the outlet. So over the years, the wires will actually come loose and then you could lose power. And it's a very common thing. A lot of the calls we go on is loss of power because of a loose wire behind the outlet. So anytime we go through and change the outlets out, we make sure the connections are good, wrap the wire around the screw. It's a good solid connection and eliminate that wire from coming loose. Okay, so you ever have a problem where you lose power in a downstairs bathroom and there's no power to the outlet, but there's no buttons on it like a GFI outlet would have. You're like, man, why is this thing not working? It's because from 1996 and up, they would have one GFI outlet that controlled all the bathroom outlets, one outlet in the garage, and one outlet on the rear patio. So the GFI typically is either in the garage or in the master bedroom. You just have to find the one with the buttons on it. That's the GFI. Go in there and reset that. It'll restore power to all the bathrooms, your garage outlet, and your back patio outlet. Okay, so say you lost power in the bathrooms and what we just saw, there was no GFI in that bathroom. Well, we came here, we got a GFI here. It's the one with the buttons on it. So on here, most likely it's because of this button here that tripped. So there's an indicator light on here. So if the light is off, it's saying that there's GFI tripped and there's no power. You might not be able to tell by looking at it, but the light is a good indicator, and obviously the other outlets are not working. You just come over here and reset it. So there's two buttons on here. If you're mixing up, you don't know what to press. One is literally just a test button. You press that, you could test it, and you press the other button, it'll reset it and restore power. A lot to talk about with the electrical panel. So there's lots of brands and different types of panels, and these days, like insurance companies are really cracking down on panels. We could talk about that all day long. One of the simplest things that I get a lot of calls saying, hey, I lost power and I went down to my panel and everything looks fine. You really have to take a look and see where breakers are, because like I got a trip breaker right here and it literally doesn't look much different than the breaker here. So a lot of people think, well, I just need to turn that breaker back on and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna press it on. Well, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to reset the breaker. A proper way to be able to reset a breaker, you actually have to shut it off first and make sure you push it pretty firm off and then back on. And as long as it stays on all the way, and paying attention that these breakers are facing different directions. So don't get confused with that, because you have breakers on the left and breakers on the right. In the on position, they're all going to be kind of switched to the middle. So it's just something to keep track. Like I've had people actually like, oh, all on, when it's on, it's to the right. And then they literally shut all these off. And then they go, oh, I have half power in my house now. So just things to look at like that. But simply when you're turning a breaker off and the back on, just make sure, you know, you're doing it right. One of the other things that common call that we get too is that there'll be a buzzing sound in the panel, because anytime there's loss of power, or if you have flickering lights or something's going on inside the house, just come out here and you could just like take a second and listen to your panel. Like electricity shouldn't make noise. So if you hear something sizzling or arcing or any kind of noise, you know you have a problem, you know you have to call us out, we'll take a look at it. And then if you ever have to shut a circuit off, like don't be afraid of like coming in here, you know, you got these breakers. Nothing in here you're going to get shocked by touching it. Like just think of these as like a light switch. You're going to simply just turn it off, and then whatever you're doing and you're done, just come out and turn it back on. But don't be afraid to come in here and turn breakers off if you have to. You're working on something, or maybe you have an issue with something. The best thing to do if you're having an issue, come out here and shut it off, call an electrician. All right, one of the last things we want to talk about is car chargers, and just making sure they're done right. It's one of the biggest loads on your house that you're going to have, so charging that car every day for a couple hours, you definitely want to make sure it's done right. I had a customer that bought a brand new house, and the builder actually put in a breaker that was rated for 30 amps with wire that was rated for 40 amps onto an outlet that was rated for 50 amps. So there's a whole lot of problem going on with that, and so the first thing is, if the customer is going to have a 50 amp charger, it'll fit in that 50 amp outlet, but then he's putting 50 amps to an outlet that's only technically rated for 30 amps. And you can't just change the breaker out on that, because then the wire is rated for only 40 amps. So we end up having to go in there, tear everything out, and then properly wire it with the right size wire and the right size breaker for that 50 amp outlet that he had. That was the only thing that was in there that was appropriate. All right, if you like what you saw today, go to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and check out our past videos for more tips and tricks. Hey San Diego, so we made a homeowner guide to be able to go over a couple things with you. We have game-changing upgrades in it, we have design tips in there for you, and how to make your panel smarter. If you want that guide, you could download it in the description.